You want to talk about anger? You want to talk about fury? When I told this family that their spouse, their husband, their father died as a result of improper medical care that was entirely preventable, you should have heard the anger. You should have heard and felt the fury. Come join me for a moment as I share with you exactly what happened and why they were so angry. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney practicing law here in the state of New York. This gentleman went in to have surgery, and the surgery went great. The problem was, 2 days later, this man was dead, and his family didn't know why. His doctors didn't know why. The nurses, nobody in the hospital could tell this family why this gentleman was dead. He went in for an otherwise routine procedure, a surgical procedure that his doctor told him he'd be in and out of the hospital in 1 or 2 days. Everybody said this is fine. He had no major medical problem. So how is it that 2 days later, this man dropped dead? Well, they didn't know the answer to the question, so they demanded that an autopsy be done. And in case you don't know, an autopsy is a clinical examination to determine what the cause of death was. And it's done by a doctor known as a pathologist to try and get to the bottom of why this person died. And do you know what they found? Months later, we learned and we obtained the report from the medical examiner, the pathologist, who actually did the autopsy. It turns out that this gentleman died of a massive blood clot to his lungs. And there's a fancy medical term for that. It's called a saddle embolus. This is what killed him. And then we had to look to see why he developed this massive blood clot. Why did it get lodged in his lungs and kill him? It turned out that this gentleman was on a blood thinner medication before his surgery. He was at risk for having a stroke, a blood clot. And before the surgery, the doctors did the correct thing. They told him, stop the medication. And the reason for that is because once they cut him open, if he's taking blood thinner medications, he will continue to bleed and they won't be able to stop the bleeding. So telling him to stop was the appropriate thing. But now, they also knew that after the surgery was over, they had to put him back onto this medication in order to reduce the risk, the chances that he would develop a blood clot. Well, that's all good and well, and they wrote it in their records. Put the patient back on this blood thinner medication. Well, here's where the problem arose. It turns out that in scouring every single page of this medical record, this patient was never, ever put back on his blood thinner medication. And as a result, 2 days later, he developed this massive blood clot to his lungs, died. Only 2 days later, the family was furious when they heard this, knowing that he would have been alive today had somebody done something so simple as put him back on his medication. So why do I share the story with you? I share it with you just to give you an insight and an understanding into what went on with this family and how their anger was so palpable. Their fury was so understandable, all because somebody dropped the ball and violated the basic standards of care. They departed from good medical practice and with hospital protocol. You know, I realize you're watching this video because you have questions or concerns about your own particular matter. Well, if your matter did happen here in New York and you're thinking about bringing a lawsuit, but you have legal questions, what I encourage you to do is pick up the phone and call me. I can answer your legal questions. You know, this is something I do every single day, and I'd love to chat with you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at Oginski-law.com. That's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a great day.